to our holistic healing shop. Is there anything I can help you find? Are you looking for anything in particular? Do you need help knowing what anything is? I saw you browsing before. Okay. To explain this? Sure. I can do that for you. This is called the Book of Runes. It's by Ralph H. Blum. This book goes over different runes, which are essentially symbols. These symbols are used for divination, and this book explains the symbols and how to use the runes. This book, if you purchase this book, you also get a set of runes. I'll show you. You get the back too. So inside our bag, you have these beautiful runes. There are different kinds. They look like little pills. But each rune has its own symbol, its own meaning attached to it. And the way you pull it out of the bag can potentially change its meaning. Some runes, no matter which way you take it out of the bag, will always mean the same thing. Some of them, though, you'll have maybe upright and you can have reversed meanings as well. I know, it looks like one of the letters of the alphabet. But these are wonderful divination tools if you're interested. The book is very helpful in explaining what they mean. And what's great about this bag, too, that holds all the runes, is you can shake up. You can tie the bag. You can shake them up to shuffle them. You can ask your question while you're shuffling. If you have any particular question in mind, or maybe you're just generally asking for advice for the day, or what you should do. Regardless, once you're done, you feel like you're done shuffling, you can open up the bag and pick which one calls out to you. Mine came out reversed. And then you can look up in the book to find out its meaning. You can also, if you become very good at reading runes, you can always do them for yourself as well. You can make your own runes. But that book, if you're a beginner, it's definitely a good place to get started. So what do you think about the runes and the book? You want to look around? I know, we have quite a selection, so of many different things. So I'm sure you'll find something you're looking for. You're interested in some of the other books we have? Sure. Let's see. Another form of divination is palmistry. This is called the Palmistry Bible by Jane Struthers. Now, palmistry, as you would expect, is reading someone's palm. So you would read the lines, the mounts, which are the bumps, the raised parts of your hand. But palmistry is more than just reading a palm. It's also reading the shape of the hand, whether you have a water hand, a fire hand, an air hand, or an earth hand. You look at the fingers, you look at their length, their structure, in comparison to each other and individually. You look at the lines on the fingers as well. It's actually quite involved, and it's more than just telling you about your future. Your non-dominant hand usually tells you about your past. Your dominant hand, regardless of which hand it is, tells you usually about your present and your future. What's amazing about palms, though, is this book tells you that your palms do change. So the lines, the mounds, the structure, to a certain degree, can change on your hand. So nothing's set in stone. You literally have your destiny in the palm of your hand, which is pretty amazing. This book, it does have its limitations, I'm not gonna lie. It gives a really good foundation if you are completely new to palmistry. However, the pictures are more diagrams than anything else. I think that's a bit of a shortcoming because hands are so different, and it's hard to look at a person's hand, like a real hand, and determine what shape it is, or what the lines look like, because there's so many lines on a hand. It's difficult to sort it out. So I almost feel like the diagram should have been paired with examples of real hands demonstrating whatever they're talking about will look like for someone's real hands. I find that to be a shortcoming of this book. However, if you really just want basic, bare knowledge, kind of dip your toes into it, it's a good start. It does go over the mounds. Like I said, those are the raised structures. For example, this is the mount of Venus. This is the mount of the moon. It's a raised structure. Each of your fingers is assigned a planet as well. They mean different things. That you can find out different information about different parts of the hand. This also does go over lines, so fate line, lifeline, marriage lines. It does go over those as well. It goes over the general shapes of the hands too. So if you're looking for a very beginner book, this isn't a bad choice. I just think it won't get you immediately reading hands right away. But to give you a very good overview, this isn't too bad. No? Okay. Didn't sell that one well. So let's stick this one back. Are you interested in some more of the books? Yes? Okay, let me see here. I would say this book, though, I find to be very, very good. This is Essential Astrology by Amy Herring. This particular book goes over your birth chart, how to read your birth chart. This is very good for beginners, once again. If you're interested in astrology, it's amazing because your horoscope, so your real birth chart, as in not just your sun sign. So for example, I was born in November, I'm a Scorpio, but you're not just a Scorpio. There's so much more involved in astrology. It's actually very complex. To be honest, it's amazing how accurate it can be, but it's very complex. So she does a really good job helping to explain things in more bite-sized chunks, so it's a little more palatable for a beginner. She goes over your birth chart, how to read it, and just to give you an idea of what a birth chart can look like. Something like this. However, there would be a lot more planets and planetary bodies, celestial bodies on it, but this is kind of the general gist, where it's divided into 12 wedges, which represent different aspects of life. It has the zodiac signs around, and you would have planets like the sun. This is the sun right here. different planets and celestial bodies placed throughout your chart, depending on where you were born and when you were born. So when you say where you were born, you don't have to specify the exact hospital or the exact room. You don't need to know that much information. It's more the city, the town where you were born, the state, the country where you were born, as specific as possible, but within reason. So in other words, the city and the state you were born, or the city and the country you were born in. And then you would say your birth time. So you want to be very accurate with your birth time, which usually you can find on your birth certificate. If you don't know that information, that she does mention some ways you can figure it out. You want your time to be as accurate as possible, because your chart can radically change if you don't have the right birth time or around the right birth time. So for example, I had gone to an astrologer once, and the woman had accidentally said that I was born in the afternoon. She had the time right, but she had the time of day wrong. I was actually born in the morning. So when she created my chart, it said that I acted more like a Cancer. So the zodiac sign Cancer. However, we found, once she asked me to make sure that all the information was correct, and I corrected her on the time, we found out that I'm very much a Scorpio. So although my sun sign's a Scorpio and you don't necessarily act like your sun sign, I do act like my sun sign quite a bit, which we found out once we remedied the time. So it completely changed what my personality, what she could read about my personality from the chart, depending on the time, the accuracy of the time. She was very accurate in her reading. The poor thing had to come up with it off the fly, but she did a good job. Pretty amazing stuff. If you don't know too much about the zodiac signs, which honestly knowing a bit about the zodiac signs really helps with astrology, you could pair this book with this one. This is The Zodiac by the diagram group Little Giant Encyclopedia. This book, place this down. This book goes over both the Western zodiac, so for example, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Scorpio, Sagittarius, etc. It goes into a lot of detail actually about each, which is beautiful, but it also shows the Chinese zodiac, which are the animals, the monkey, the tiger, the rat, the dragon, etc. And it tells you different parts of their personality. So for example, if you are a Leo, or your sun sign is a Leo, or you wanted to learn more about what Leos are generally speaking like, this would tell you some characteristics, some positive and negative traits. It'll tell you some of their colors, the planets associated with them, the tarot cards that are associated with them, what they typically will look like physically, what they're like as children most of the time, what they act like at home, what they act like at work, what they act like in their relationships, their romantic relationships, who they butt heads with, how they act as friends, who they get along with generally. It's actually a very interesting book, and I find that it's very likes and dislikes, health. It's very accurate. It even tells you some famous people who have that sun sign, where potentially in your body you could have issues based on that personality type. It's actually very interesting, this book, so I do recommend this one. So even if you don't want to read birth charts, this can help give a little insight into each of the zodiac signs, both the Western zodiac and the Eastern zodiac, if you're interested. Although it might be nice to pair them, probably read this one first, take a look at this one first, or at least reference it as you go, and then read this one so that it makes a little more sense if you don't have much background about the zodiac signs and how they typically act and behave. So those are options. she didn't come in with a specific holistic practice in mind. That's kind of why I'm showing you different types, because we offer so many different types and they're all beneficial in their own way for whatever your use is. This practice that I'm going to show you next isn't necessarily always used in holistic settings. However, it's honestly such a beautiful, beautiful practice that I wanted to share it with you. This is called Unwind Your Mind, the life-changing power of ASMR. Now, if you don't know, ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, which is just a super fancy way of saying tingles. Now, tingles are similar to when you listen to really, really good music and you get a chill that runs usually from the top of your head all the way through your body. ASMR is similar. It's a similar sensation. It's usually triggered by different sensory experiences. So, for example, possibly a soft voice, maybe whispering, tapping, rubbing, flipping through pages, sticky fingers, different visual and auditory sensory experiences typically, or maybe if someone's playing with your hair, or tracing on your skin, you can get tingles. Now, this book is written by Emma WhispersRed. She is an ASMR artist. An ASMR artist is a person who works to induce ASMR in others. So they create experiences that can cause their viewers to experience, or their listeners to experience ASMR. She's a wonderful ASMR artist. She is on YouTube. She's also very good at advocating for ASMR to be more of a holistic healing practice, which I agree with her, it should be. She very much advocates for ASMR to be more well accepted. A lot of people will look at ASMR at face value and will say, that's creepy, that's weird, that makes me uncomfortable. Honestly, to each his own, but ASMR, I feel, is a beautiful practice. You can feel so well loved through ASMR. It's such a beautiful feeling. Very often the ASMR artists are wonderful, wonderful people. They're so very loving, and they're so creative, and they're so playful with everything. It's wonderful. She actually does host live events when she can to help people experience ASMR in real life, not just through video, because she mainly does ASMR through video. But there's nothing like being in person and experiencing it. In this book, she does explain what ASMR is. She does an amazing job representing the community as a whole. I was a little nervous, not gonna lie, when I first saw the book, because it says, harness the healing power of sound. I personally get ASMR through sound, but I also get it through visuals. I love the visuals. So, I think she honestly, in the book itself, she did an amazing job mentioning different types of ASMR, different ways to get triggered by ASMR. She does mention visuals. I think this was mainly probably the editor's decision. I think most people think of sounds when they think of ASMR, at least people who are in the community, but I personally love the visuals. When somebody is just so in tune with what they're doing and what you see, in combination with the sounds that are made, it's just, it's so good. She does an amazing job. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in this, to pick this up. Okay. necessarily healing practices, but they're very useful. So for example, this is called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Now Eckhart Tolle is right here. He is the cutest little German man. He actually does have some videos with his talks. He does talks around the world about his ideas and about spiritualism. He is a spiritualist. So he doesn't necessarily align himself to a particular religion, but he advocates for a lot of mindfulness practices in your everyday life. In this one, The Power of Now, he really advocates for being in the present moment, because that's where life really happens. He goes into a lot of detail about how important it is for you, yourself, to be responsible, to be here in your body, experiencing whatever it is you have to experience, and enjoying it as much as possible. Honestly, he's a wonderful speaker, so even if you don't get the book, you can look him up online. He does have some free talks, and he speaks very well. You can tell he tries very hard to be in tune with himself, in tune with the divine, for inspiration. People ask him questions, and sometimes he'll just pause for a long time and think about it, and just kind of let the answer come. It's really inspiring. So this is a wonderful book. I do recommend it. He does have other books. This is not his only book. But like I said, he also has the talks. So if you don't want to read the book, or you don't feel like getting this right now, if you wanted a little taste of some of his ideas, I would recommend looking him up. Okay. This next one is not a practice, really. It's with holistic healing, a lot of it is discovering yourself, finding yourself, and learning how to work with your circumstances and to react the way in alignment with how you should react, as in the best way to react so that you get the best possible outcome for you and others. So we believe that it's important to know yourself. So this book doesn't apply to everybody. However, it's an amazing way, if you are one of these people, to get to know yourself. And if you're not one of these people, maybe you know someone who's like this, and it can help you understand them better. This is called The Highly Sensitive Person by Elaine and Aron, Ph.D. Now, a highly sensitive person, or an HSP, oh, this is her. Highly sensitive person, generally speaking, is a person who thinks differently than others. Now, just because you think differently than someone else doesn't mean that they think better than you, or that you think better than them. It's not necessarily who's smarter than anyone else. It's just how you process information is different. So a person who is an HSP processes information more deeply than other people, as in pretty much everything you have to process, which is absolutely every kind of input, sensory input that you have, everything you experience. An HSP chews on that information much longer than a non-HSP. HSPs are a small percentage of the population. In this book, she says about 15% of the population are HSPs, which is why HSPs always typically feel misunderstood, because there's so few of them that everyone around them just seems so different, and it's almost like you're on different wavelengths with everybody else when you're an HSP. But being an HSP is not a bad thing by any means. being an HSP, like I said, means you chew on information for longer. The good thing about that is that you are really engaging with the information, even in the back of your mind, and you're chewing on it for so long that you tend to understand it on a deeper level, and you see connections very, very well. Things just kind of link and make sense for HSPs. However, the issue with chewing on information like that is because when there's too much information coming at you, you're constantly chewing on every little bit of information, and too much is coming at you at once, and you're trying to chew that deeply on every bit of information coming at you, you can reach what she calls the threshold of overwhelm faster than a non-HSP. And the threshold of overwhelm is essentially you get overwhelmed. It's just too much. For an HSP, they typically reach that too much status faster than other people. She goes into a lot of detail about her research because she is an HSP herself. So she and her husband and her team have researched highly sensitive people, trying to show that they're not, that being an HSP doesn't mean you're weak. It's not a weakness, that it's actually a strength, and it's just a type of person, just a different way to process information. HSPs also physically tend to be seem weaker. They might have more sensitivities than their non-HSP counterparts. For example, I actually am an HSP. I used to, especially when I was younger, constantly get motion sickness. Every long ride I would dread because I would get motion sickness all the time. I also do reach my threshold of overwhelm quite easily. If there's just too much and I'm thinking about too much, I'm done. I need time to recoup by myself and just kind of settle in, and then try to focus on one thing at a time so I can do the necessary chewing one thing at a time. But it was nice to read a book that helps you understand yourself a little bit better, other people a little bit better, and to realize that no matter what type of person you are, you're made that way for a reason, that there's really, really good benefits to being you. I actually learned about this book from Emma, WhispersRed. I actually had watched a video from her, and she had mentioned that book. And then I looked into it myself, and I was very happy I did. The woman who did write The Highly Sensitive Person does have a website, so if you're interested in learning more about that research and finding more recent research about HSPs, you can actually look at her website and learn more. Let me see. Would you like us to go over some of the card decks that we have? Okay. Let's see here. I think it's always good to start at the beginning. Now this is a pack called the Universal Waite Tarot. Now, the tarot decks have been used for many generations. There are so many different types of tarot cards, designs. This is considered one of the original types, or one of the more accepted as a very traditional deck. This comes with a book by Mr. Waite, where he discusses the tarot a bit more. It's a bit of it's a harder read in the sense that it's old enough where if you're not in the know with that kind of information about esoteric divination, it's a little hard to follow sometimes, but it's good to look at, I guess. It also comes with this. which is a type of tarot spread. This is one of the traditional types where you have one card here, second card here, third, fourth, fifth, six, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it tells you different things about your question. So if you don't know, tarot is the use of cards, specifically tarot cards, which are traditionally 78 cards, 22 of which are considered the major arcana. The major arcana essentially goes over universal themes. So for example, Temperance is a card, the Empress, the Emperor, the High Priestess, the Hermit. All of those have their own different meanings, but they all talk about universal concepts. And then you have what's called the minor arcana, which are the rest of the deck, which goes over almost like a traditional card deck where you have the ace, the king, the queen. Instead of the jack, you have the page. And you also have a knight in the tarot. And then you'll have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you have your 4 suits. Except the 4 suits in this are swords, pentacles, cups, and wands. So it does come with a tarot deck, and they each are illustrated and colored. This is the back of the deck, just stars. Now for tarot, you can read them upright. They'll have different meanings. Upright versus if they are reversed. There is a guidebook, this little mini guidebook that comes with that set that goes over some of the meanings. I find that there are other tarot decks that kind of explain the meanings a bit better than this. However, if you want more of the traditional tarot deck, this set isn't a bad way to go. Some of the pictures can be quite nice as well. This is the Empress. This is the Fool, one of the major arcana. Another one of the major arcana. The High Priestess is another major arcana. The Star, I think it's very beautiful. It's also a major arcana. Temperance is major arcana. The World is as well as the Fool that we saw before. But it comes as a set altogether if you're interested. Okay. That's an option. If you want a different type of tarot deck, you can go with something like this, which is the Shadowscapes Tarot by Stephanie Pui-Mun. This box is very beautiful, but besides being very beautiful, it's actually the cards themselves are fashioned after kind of fantasy as well as Asian and Celtic artwork. So she draws on different symbols from the Celts and the Asians and from fantasy to create this art. This is also by Baron-Reid. The box is super fancy, I gotta say. You open it like this. It's magnetic. Look how beautiful that is. And you open knows over the meanings. Of course, with divination, especially once you get used to it and you play with it a bit more, you can follow your intuition. You don't have to follow the meanings written in the books, but they're there if you do need the guidance. It has this little ribbon to open to help you lift the book, that it's easier to take out. And underneath the book, you have the card deck itself. Once again, you can lift the ribbon to lift it out. I'll show you. So if you lift it, this is the back of the deck. And these are the cards. They're very beautifully done, very colorful, very gorgeous deck. Very gorgeous deck. So if you wanted a different take on tarot cards, something a little different, this is a good option. Especially since it relies on fantasy, even Celtic symbolism, which is very interesting. That's the Shadowscapes tarot. We do have another tarot deck that I'd like to share with you. It's partially a tarot deck, but it's also somewhat of an oracle card deck. I'll explain as I go here. So this is the Good Tarot by Colette, Baron-Reid. It's a very beautiful card deck. She explains that this was designed and was called the Good Tarot because her friend had said that she fears reversals. When a card is reversed, when it's upside down, it usually means that the energy of that card represents is blocked. So when the energy is blocked, the message is typically a harder message to hear, something a little more negative sounding than an upright. And that's not always the case, but a lot of people do get a little nervous when they see a lot of reversals and they think they're going to hear something bad. So she made this deck designed mainly not to have any reversals, and she tries to make all her messages regarding the sign, each of the cards' meanings, to be like affirmations, like I am statements, as in like I am powerful, I can handle this kind of thing. She tries to take it in a positive light. Here's the book that explains the card meanings. And she explains in her introduction a little bit about it. Here are the pictures of the cards, their numbers, the names of them. She does, why I call this, it's partially an oracle card deck because she changes some of the names of the traditional tarot names. So for example, there's a card in the tarot called Death. And very often when somebody sees the card Death, they panic because they're like, what, I'm gonna die? And that's not what it means. It's a card of transformation where something ends so that something else can begin. So she calls it transformation in this deck to be a little more clear and to have a little bit of a more positive connotation to it. The main difference between oracle and tarot cards is that tarot cards are traditionally 78 cards, like I said, with them split between the major and the minor arcana. Oracle cards can be pretty much anything. So, for example, if you're not interested in another tarot deck, and this one is meant not to be read in reversal, although she does say that you can if you feel guided to. Another one we have is this. This is actually an oracle card deck, also by Colette Baron-Reid. It's called the Enchanted Map. Now, oracle card decks are typically intuitively guided, so the makers, the artists, create them with their intuition, and you can interpret the images as you wish. And this is Miss Colette Baron-Reid on the back. And she explains what each of the cards mean. However, you can use your own intuition to figure out what they mean. You can also read them in reversals if you wish. That's up to you. So when you shuffle them, you can shuffle them so that certain cards are reversed and others aren't. You can go like this, you can split the deck, shuffle them this way. However you feel guided to do it. Some people don't read reversals regardless of whether they're using tarot or oracle cards, but that is a personal decision. And you can ask the cards, they are a form of divination, so you can ask them questions. Essentially, they help you understand answers that you essentially already know. So there's always a little voice inside us that tells us the answer. And we may not know it right off the bat, or it may be hard to sift through all the noise to figure out what the answer is. So tarot and oracle card decks can help us figure that out. We also carry some other tools that you can use. So if, for example, you wanted to do some clearing in your house, say it feels really icky, it feels heavy, you can burn sage. These are white sage. This is a small one, and this is a large one. Obviously this one has been used. We will not sell you a used one. But these help clear out negative energy, so if you need to, you can use these. If you want to clear out negative energy, you can also use something like a selenite stick, wave it around. Alright. Did anything appeal to you? Do you want me to explain anything else, or do you want to just look around? You want to just look, oh, you want to know about this a little more? Sure. This is an evil eye amulet. So with the evil eye, if somebody is very jealous of you, if somebody wants something that you have, they may look at you in a particular way that could cause harm. So this is something where it looks right back at you to help prevent the evil eye. So it's always handy to have, just in case for protection. So if anything works for you, just let me know. I also want to let you know, these are just tools. Please bear that in mind. This is not a good selling point, but it's true. These are all tools. You don't need them to access your own higher power, to access your intuition. Divination can help with different things. It can help you with your decision making, but it's not an end-all be-all. Everything here is pretty much working with energy, and energy ebbs and flows. You have all the tools you need, all the power within yourself to know what to do. These can just help you get there, or help you understand it a little bit better, because they're more tangible. So please don't feel that you need them, because you can do it yourself.